Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. We have with us a special returning guest, Chrissie Mayr. She hosts the West Spot on Compound Media, the Chrissie Mayr podcast, and Simpcast. Chrissie, I thought this is going to be like, and it still is the most intense episode of Your Welcome ever. And I had planned
Really?
to get you to see if I can get you to smile and laugh, but like we're already there, so my work's kind of cut out for me.
Let me
Um,
start out I can be more morose, and then I can make you feel like you've let me okay.
I
Hi,
don't want
Michael.
morose. No, no, no. Let's get because I've been thinking about this episode for a whole week because you've probably had the most intense year of anyone I know. I have had friends who are like kind of messaging me about what you've been going through, and I've seen it as well myself. And I thought to myself, okay, in these words, what can I do to help this bitch? So
Oh,
you were raising money for your new studio. I threw some cash, and then like,
yes, thank you so much for
oh,
that.
it was the least I could do, and I'm like, "Let me have her on the show to promote her work and talk about what she's been going through," because the thing that I've learned in my experience is when you go through trauma, the only thing that I found that mitigates it is having a platform and discussing it publicly. Sometimes someone out there is going to be helped because I'm sure someone's gonna get that phone call like you did, and they're gonna think of this episode, and maybe it won't be literally the same thing, but it'd be like, you know what? They'll feel a little bit prepared. So, and also we've got a very happy ending, but we'll save that for later. Do you wanna say it or should I?
You can say yeah, you can say it. I'm down for whatever.
So, I mean, there's no two ways about this, but, like, your dad was recently murdered.
Yeah, it is, and sometimes I talk about it and I sound disconnected and I sound like I'm almost describing a show or a movie or somebody else's life. Like I sometimes get to a place where I almost feel, like, clinical about it, and then there's other times I'll hear a song usually, like, hearing a song or I mean, I have a bunch of old voicemails. After my mom died, I would play back, like, old voicemails, and that would get me, but, yeah, sometimes I'll hear a song and I'll just or I'll wake up and I'll just start like, it's so strange because with my mom, she passed away in 2018. She had brain cancer, which is, like, I think one of the worst cancers,
Yeah, of
like, one of the
course.
most brutal and, tons of people listening have lost, loved ones to cancer, but with brain cancer, it's like the tumor was on the focal motor part of her brain, so she lost her speech and her writing first, and she was the
Ah,
funniest woman, like, just silliest, could have fun in a paper bag. Like, we would go to a restaurant on the water, and she'd be like, "We're on vacation," and then so to see her lose, like, her speech first was like, oh, like, cancer fucking sucks because you lose somebody kind of in chunks. And I was prepared mentally for that. You see somebody in decline, but when someone's murdered or you lose somebody suddenly, nothing can prepare you for that because, like, I had just got married in June and my dad was at my wedding. He's in great shape. One of the articles describes him as elderly, like elderly man, homicide, whatever, Henderson, Nevada. And I was like, elderly? What? He was in incredible
now I'm
shape.
really upset.
Yes, I was like, "He would not want this." He would not he was at going to the gym, he could bench press, he was tearing it up, like, he was so my mom passed away in 2018, and she even sometimes would joke, like, "Oh, Frank," as my dad's name, like, "Frank has his pick of the litter here at the retirement." Not like it's a retirement home, it's not a retirement resort, it's a place where people go in Naples, Florida to they retire there and yes, it's probably 50 and up, but it's not by no means, people going around in wheelchairs. It's beautiful. There's like a pool, there's a club, there's a gym. But people that live there are retired. My mom would be like, "Oh, when I die, he's gonna have his pick of the litter." And he sure did. The women were clamoring for my dad. Like he was the best looking guy there. He was on his, I think, second girlfriend. And my mom died in 2018, so it's not like
Yeah, yeah.
they waited for he could barely wait for the coffin to close, like, he gave it time, and I was always worried about that too, I'm like, "I don't want him to be alone."
Wait,
Uh,
Chrissy, like, that's a big epidemic nowadays is, like, venereal disease with the elderly because
yes,
'cause they're in
chlamydia,
all
it
these
runs
nursing homes screwing each
rampant.
other. Yeah.
It runs rampant in, the nursing home, but this is, This is bougie Naples, Florida. So anyway, he had a girlfriend that he had been a second girlfriend that he'd been seeing for a couple of years. Didn't bring her to my wedding because I think that was, I guess, the right thing to do because he didn't want to make it about like, here's my new.
Yeah.
But God, yeah, he just freaking walked me down the aisle, was in incredible shape, German immigrant, very, Virgo as well, so just kind of, like, extremely low maintenance, extremely a hardy, gritty man, wouldn't even take Advil, if he was bleeding from the head kind of guy, and
Well,
so I
in
would
all fairness, if you're bleeding from the head, I don't think Advil's gonna do much.
Right, right, you don't even feel it. I think with head and if your head is bleeding, you don't even you don't have a nerve, I don't know.
Yeah, take some Advil. Your
Like,
my head's
I
been bashed open, have some
I
Advil.
don't think Advil's gonna work. But just fucking a gritty, tough as nails dude. And God, it was insane because after my mom died, we had a very tough time, me and him. I even went a period of several months to a year without even talking to him because, death sometimes brings out the worst in people. And my
Yeah,
dad felt like because their marriage wasn't always the best. Like, I always thought, like, maybe they would get divorced, but when my mom got sick, I think something happened with my dad where he felt like, "Oh, I've gotta take care of her 100% by myself," maybe in a sense to, like, make up for, who knows, like, their relationship, and it was to a fault, like, he kind of stubbornly wouldn't hire enough home help, so he
yeah,
ended up, like, pulling his back, carrying her to the bathroom, and it's like, "Dad, you're in great shape, but you're also a 70-year-old person,
yeah,
like, you
yeah.
can't as strong as you are, like, you're not gonna be able to lift her all the time," and he, like, kind of lashed out at me, like, "Oh, why didn't you quit your job and move down to Florida and help me take care of her?" But didn't ask that of my brother and sister and kinda, like, lashed out, and we had, like, just, like, family stuff came up, and we were not in a good place, and I had to kind of silent treatment him, and then I got engaged, and that was, maybe a year later, and I realized and you had Jesse Lee Peterson on recently, and who I
Amazing.
love amazing, who I love so much. I the first time I had him on the show, I guess I let it slip that I maybe had daddy issues at the time,
Uh,
and he said something to me that really stuck. He was like, "You have to just basically make up with him, like, you gotta get over it, you have to forgive him," and, like, I don't remember our exact conversation, but I remember how I felt after I spoke with him, and it really changed my life because I was like, "You know what? Yeah, you can't walk around, a grown woman with daddy issues, it's just kind of unbecoming."
do
I
you
came
love
to this
white people?
Dude, I love all people, I love
Do you
even
love
black
white people?
women. I love white people, I love black women. Even though their mothers ruined them. I can tell you have a PhD. But through talking to him, I was like, "Oh, yeah, our parents are just doing the best they can with what they have at the time. You can't spend your whole adult life being pissed at your parents. You gotta fucking forgive them for stuff and get over it." And I realized, like, yeah, I need to not like I needed to have a whole struggle session with my dad, like, "Here's how you hurt my feelings over the years." But I just kind of forgave him in my head, and then I realized I really wanted to involve him in the planning of my wedding, and growing up, he was a landscaper. He was one of the last great white landscapers of our time, Michael, and growing up, it was like my mom didn't work, he just was a landscaper. We were I guess, I don't know, what felt like regular middle class, but who knows? But, so he always loved the out and then when I was in high school, he lucked out and got a job as a Teamster because he had a truck driving license, and he became a Teamster in New York City right around the time, like, Sex and the City first came out, like, Manchurian Candidate had worked on so many shows and films, and he was actually the perfect guy for that job because he's the last guy that would ever be starstruck. He didn't give a fuck about any of that, Hollywood showbiz type stuff. But it's a grueling job physically because it's like 14-hour days. You're waking up at like 4 in the morning. But it was better than, continuing to be a landscaper past 40 years old. So he ended up doing that, which is how they were able to send all three of us to college and like, afford to retire to Florida. Anyway, so oh, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so I wanted to involve him in the planning of my wedding, and then I was like, "Dad, like, you're gonna love this venue. It's the Bear Mountain. It's in kind of almost upstate New York, Westchester, where I live now. And I just decided consciously I was gonna really involve him in the planning, and it brought us so much closer together between my engagement party and then all the events of the wedding last June, and just having him up, and Frank's family has been so welcoming and warm, and really, like, it was such a lovely last couple of years, and even, my uncle, his brother, and, his sister, like, few of our relatives that we weren't that close to growing up, they really appreciate it too. Like, I just kept throwing events, I guess, like, "Come to the engagement party, come to
Yeah.
the wedding, here's a Father's Day brunch after the wedding," and, we were in such a freaking good place. I like, he cried. We both cried, like, walking down the aisle, but and it was rough too because I had one of my mom wasn't there, obviously, and I had one of those, like, kind of you're debating, do I do an empty chair with a sign
Oh
on it
my
that says,
god.
like, "Our loved one is in" does that make
Yeah,
it
yeah.
sadder, or is that, like, you have to do something or you don't? So, just we had such a blast, and then, I got pregnant in July, didn't real didn't realize it. I blame my Catholic period tracking app, by the way. I don't think it tracked anything. I think because it very easily
Is the
goes
app
through.
called This Is Your Body?
Yeah, the app is called "We Got You, Bitch," you know? Because 'Cause I'm not Catholic, but we got married in a Catholic church because Frank's family's Catholic, so, they I had when you get married in a Catholic church, you the priest makes actually made him sign a waiver, like, "I agree, I am marrying this Methodist piece of trash, it's okay. If we have a baby, we'll raise him in the faith." So, that was pretty cool, and, so we go through all that, and I felt too, like, there's something about getting married in a Catholic church. It just levels it up. It feels,
Mhm.
I don't know, it feels like God is really watching, like, "Don't fuck this up," but in a nice way, like, you wanna do a good job, you wanna be I don't know, it feels like the most serious way you can get married. I
Yes,
I
I
can't
was the
really.
best man I had a friend who's a very failed podcaster, he recently got married, and got to be the best man, which was a huge privilege, and it kind of I was also at another Catholic wedding a couple of years back, and it kind of enrages me, not obviously, I'm not Catholic, but that they're now trying to refuse to let them do the Latin Mass, like, even if they want to, they will say,
Wow.
"No, we're doing it in English," and to me and, I got this, I guess, just from Camilla Paglia, my great role model. She talks about the beauty of the Catholic Church in the sense that when you're hearing these words, these this have the same words for thousands of years throughout the world, knowing that some random little village in England or somewhere in who the hell knows, Italy, that for centuries they were hearing
Wow.
this exact, and now they're after Vatican II, they're like, nope, we're modernizing, and it's just like the appeal of the Catholic Church,
Wow.
and I see this even as an outsider, but I guess being Jewish, you have kind of the same thing is you're having this sense of centuries, millennia of tradition and continuity. So instead of it being a wedding where it's just like, oh, cool, we're a couple, it's like we're part of something
Yeah.
throughout time and throughout the world.
And you know what? It's like they can't change the language on a Latin mass the way they can change
Right,
textbooks and
exactly.
have new editions and
Yes.
edit things over, and even the Bible, I've heard in different variations have they've begun to leave things out and change things up, and, so that's really concerning, and I'm wondering, ooh, are they the Latin mass is out, what about the pig Latin mass? Are they still offering that?
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Ixnay on the immunion K. I don't know. Um, and I was really, flattered too because my dad came to the Catholic wedding because that actually happened in May. We got married in June. The wedding itself was in June, but the Catholic marriage part, the
Oh,
church
that'd
part
be
was in
great.
May, a month before. And I was shocked my dad came out for that because he was kind of had an aversion to religion all growing up because his dad was a member of the famed Mooney cult.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes, which I have in the last few years started to do more and more research on because just I don't know anybody who's been in a legit cult, but my grandfather, my dad's father, was in the Mooney cult, divorced my dad's mom at a time where people weren't really getting divorces. He participated in a mass wedding, married a random Asian lady in a mass wedding, and then over the few years before he died, just call up my dad, my uncle, constantly asking them for money, and, I guess my dad was
For
his
himself or for the church?
for hi he would say it was for himself. He would say, "Oh, I need $100 for my birthday party for the Moonies are throwing me this birthday," and then it would just go to the church. It all goes to the church. My dad was very upset all throughout his life, like, "Man, we would always eat the shittiest cut of meat because my dad was always giving money to the Moonies. We would
Oh my
he didn't send
gosh.
me to Boy Scouts. He didn't have money for Boy Scouts for me because everything had to go to the fucking Moonies," and I just very much had a hang up about that. So I was so pleasantly surprised that he came to the Catholic church wedding because I just thought, "Oh, he fucking hates church and hates religion." So and then my wedding in June, he looks great. We're dancing, and I even me and Frank, we did, you know how they have, like, the mother-daughter and then,
Of
like, the
course.
father-son, or no, mother-son,
Yeah.
father-daughter dance. I was like, "Okay," I didn't want it to be super awkward, and, I just didn't know how my dad was gonna be, if he was gonna be super emotional or not, so we chose to do, like, Frank and his mom dancing at the same time as me and my dad in case, like, things get emotional. I
Sure.
didn't want him to feel like there's too many eyes on him or us, and it ended up being, like, so perfect and had so much fun. It was, like, kind of his big day too, and he had so much fun, and then I get pregnant in July. I don't realize it until September. I had a very White Claw summer, and thank God the baby's fine, but, I was really worried for I was like, "Wow, I if you're gonna drink while pregnant, just drink White Claw and you'll be fine." Um
You should make fake ads for White Claw. And I'm not just saying this as a fan, I'm saying this as a customer, and hold the baby
Yeah.
up.
I'm like, "Look,
Look how
he's
cute this
great,
kid
he's
is. Yeah.
beautiful." I thought he was gonna come out holding a White Claw. I was like, "Wow." But maybe only I was on
Like a little White
yeah,
Claw.
"Claw's the law." That was his first word. And, so, I'm and all the while, can't even believe I'm actually pregnant. I'm still touring. Second trimester comes. Okay, now I'm actually showing now, touring around still. October rolls around, or yes, middle of October. Since I'm a geriatric pregnancy, you can do blood tests and they'll figure out they do blood tests instead of doing the amnio, which is when they used to stick a big
Yeah,
needle in
yeah.
your stomach to find out if your kid's gonna be retarded. And some people do it, some people don't because they're like, and we got to a place where I was like, well, I don't know if I have too many more shots left at this. If he is a little bit funky, we'll keep him. It's gonna be fine. It is what it is. Like, it's a miracle he's even here. So you do the blood test to find out if there's any genetic abnormalities. Everything was low risk and clear and beautiful. And I was like, wow. And then you also find out the gender because if there's any presence of, I think, Y chromosome,
Yeah.
then okay, that's not my blood. That there's a little boy in there. So we found out it was a boy, and then, like, the next day, I FaceTime my dad. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna start telling family that I'm pregnant," and we also know the gender. So I had actually this pumpkin here, which I can't believe is still, hasn't imploded. I had this in the backyard, and I was like, "Okay, this is how I'm gonna tell my dad I'm pregnant," because was a landscaper, really into nature. I was like, "Dad," and I never ever FaceTime him. I was like, "Come out to the garden, like, there's something weird growing in the garden. I wanna see if you can identify it." So I bring him out to the backyard, and I have this kind of nestled in the plants, and then I was like, "Do you see it?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." He's like, "Do you have something to tell me?" I'm like, "You're gonna be a grandpa again." He was like, "Oh my
You're gonna
god,
my I'm giving birth to a pumpkin.
yeah, I'm having a pumpkin. Trump knocked me up. It's gonna be a little orange." I cannot I got this in September. I cannot believe this hasn't started to rot. So
It's probably
he's
full of White Claw. It's the
it
alcohol is keeping it
yes,
preserved.
it's been brine, I don't know. Anyway, so he was like, "Wow," and I said it's gonna be a little boy, and at the time, I wish I had told him because we knew the second we were having a boy, we were gonna name him Frank because my husband's name is Frank, my dad's name is Frank, and my husband's dad is also named Frank. It's a name we're all very comfortable and used to yelling. So I regret not saying in that phone call, like, "We're gonna name him Frank," but I was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be a little boy," and he's like, "Wow, I guess I have plans for April," and he was so excited, and I was on the FaceTime and actually saw his girlfriend, uh, there, and it was just, like, a really lovely phone call.
Hey, if I want to talk to you about Bone Charge, their extensive range of premium wellness products help you sleep better, perform better, more energy, recover faster, balance hormones, reduce inflammation, from blue light glasses to red light therapy, EMF management, and circadian friendly lighting. Bone Charge products help you naturally address the issues of our modern day way of life effortlessly and with maximum impact. Go to bonecharge.com/welcome, use code welcome, you get 15% off. They're a holistic wellness brand with a huge range of evidence-based products to optimize your life in every way. Founded in science, inspired by nature, all of Bone Charge's products adopt ancestral ways of living in our modern day world. Maybe you want to detoxify, you're eating badly, you had a few drinks. Maybe you want to ease stress and unwind. What you would want is their infrared sauna blanket. The sauna blanket works by raising your heart rate to that of physical exercise, so it burns calories while you relax. You can burn up to 600 calories in just one session. It's easy to set up, heats up rapidly, and you can enjoy a session for 30-40 minutes while relaxing, reading, watching TV. Here's the kicker. Bone Charge ships worldwide in rapid time. It's made from vegan leather, and there's free shipping on every sauna blanket with no hidden costs. Even better, easy returns and exchanges. You get a 30-day trial and a 12-month warranty. Go to bonecharge.com/welcome. That's BONCHARGE.com/welcome. Use code welcome. You get 15% off. That's BONCHARGE.com/welcome and use code welcome to save 15% off. Folks, sperm counts are dropping worldwide, and today the average man is only half as fertile as his grandfather was, and scientists think that's due to a variety of factors, including the obesity epidemic, diet, and pollution. 1 in 10 men have a low sperm count, 1 in 6 couples experience infertility, and 50% of these cases are attributable to sperm. So it's a good idea for men to test their sperm to see where they stand and to freeze their sperm at its youngest and healthiest. Even if you don't want to have kids in the near future, this is an insurance plan that can help you have a healthy family when you are ready. And Legacy provides sperm testing and freezing from home, eliminating the need for visits to a doctor or a traditional fertility clinic. Here's how it works. Legacy sends a sample collection kit to a client's home. Men produce a semen sample at home, send the kit back within 24 hours. The kit contains transport media that keeps the sperm sample fresh until it arrives at the lab. The sample's analyzed at a lab, and sperm health results, which are 5 industry standard metrics of sperm quality, are sent securely to the client's phone within 48 hours of them mailing the sample. If a client chooses to freeze their sperm, the sample is split and securely stored in 2 locations to protect it from natural disasters. Legacy offers a variety of storage plans ranging from 1 to 25 years for the cost of a few cups of coffee a month. It's time to take your future into your own hands. Testing and freezing your youngest, healthiest sperm keeps all your future options open. Legacy offers sperm testing and freezing you can do 100% from home. To see if sperm testing and freezing is right for you, visit givelegacy.com and use promo code Malice for 10% off. That's GIVElegacy.com, promo code Malice. Let's get back to the show.
And then 4 days later, I'm in Minnesota. There's a sold out show. I'm headlining. My friend Lila Hart is featuring. Nick Rekieta is going to be on. He's another YouTuber. He's like a law tuber, but he was going to try his hand at stand up. And April and Aaron Imholt of the Steel Toe Morning Show, they're producing this show. It's out in Minnesota. It's sold out. It's the night before the show. Me and Lila are in our hotel room watching a movie with like some of my YouTube fans. And I get a call from my sister-in-law. It's 9:30. I'm like, why is she calling me? Ignore. She calls me again. I was like, all right, well, this probably isn't a butt dial. I pick it up. I go, fuck, this is my sister-in-law. I hope something's not up with my brother. I go into the other room. She goes, your dad's been shot and killed. I was like, what the
Wait,
fuck?
that's her opener?
That's her opener. I mean, how else? She's not really a soft woman. You know what I mean? Like she's not one to sugarcoat things in general.
Can I say something? Because there's this. Wait, let's pause here because there's a lot on the table. And first of all, I'm just surprised and delighted that you're able to talk about this without losing your shit, because I did a course for record a course for Peterson Academy of Jordan Peterson about the rise and fall of the Soviet Union.
Ooh.
And there's this story of this kid, Peter Fechter, and he was 21 or 18, I forget right off the top of my head, and he was shot trying to cross the Berlin Wall, and he bled out for an hour before he died. And I just like have this whole scene in that moment, like what was going through his head, and it was daylight and people could see it. And it's on YouTube, and just and we have a picture of him, so like you can see his face like staring at us.
Whoa.
And this happened way before I was born, but like it took me, I must have been up there for 10 minutes. I couldn't even get through like the beginning because I just kept losing it. And I'm just like, how do I do this? I didn't know what to do. And this is not my dad. This is, again, this happened before I was born. It's a tragedy with some kid who, in East Berlin, years ago. How are you, and I'm not trying to belittle anything, but I'm just like, how are you at a point where you can talk about this without just cracking?
It comes and goes,
Okay.
and Michael, I it was a week after he was killed. I had a head like, so I obviously didn't do the show in Minnesota, it was the next day. I was like, "Fuck," and then the comedian part of me was like, "Damn it, this is a sold out show. I can't believe I had to walk away from this,"
Yeah.
like, and then even Lila and some of the others were like, "We'll cancel it, we'll cancel it." I was like, "Actually," I was like, "No, there's 200 plus people here. You there's enough of you guys, like, find another local person if you have to. Everyone do more time. Like, just do the show, like, don't, disappoint all these people," and then
Well, oh,
sure
sorry,
enough.
this is what I wanted to say, this is why I interrupted you, because what I was gonna say is back in the day, Saturday Night Live, when it was, like, a little more gonzo and kind of that old school David Letterman stuff, there was this, I think it was Jerry Hall was hosting, and there was a sketch called something about shoes, and there was all these, like, tongue puns and, like, oh, like, like, "Give me tongue," like, just really stupid, like, shoe jokes. Oh, big toe. Randy Quaid kept stubbing his big toe, and they're making all these big toe jokes, and it's just really dumb, and then Jerry Hall walks in, and she just goes, "Your father went and hung himself." Like, it's just out of complete nowhere, this really dark, like,
Oh,
ending, and it's on the
uh,
internet. But, like, to me, I'm just imagining you sitting there and talk about, like, are you sitting down? Are you in a good place? It's just, oh my god, like, I mean, did just the floor fall out from under you?
did she say, "Are you sitting down?" No, I was standing because I remember dramatically dropping to the floor of the hotel and, like, getting acquainted with the carpet, I just was like, and it was crazy because 'cause I've never lashed out. My reaction to that, I was like, I kept saying, "What the fuck? What the f" I was yelling, screaming at her, like I was very, I did not treat her well. I mean, it's horrible news. It's the worst news of your life to hear.
Right,
So
of course.
I had a very messy reaction, and I just was like, "What the fuck?" Because you're just like it's not like you're going from 0 to 20, you're going 0 to 400. You're like, "Well, wait, what the fuck?" Like, we're not a family of gangbangers, we're not a family
Right.
of drug dealers. He got shot? Like, what? Um, I'm like, "He lives in a fucking gated community," and so she gives me the news. I like completely break down. Poor Lila's in the next room, still trying to watch Sleepy Hollow and look at super chats. And I am just the sound she must have heard from the other room was probably like, ah, like just the worst blood curdling.
Wait, is
What
this
the
live
fuck?
stream still on the internet?
Yes. Did I take it down? I know I still have the recording on my StreamYard because I haven't deleted it yet because I
I
was
mean, talk about Chrissie Mayr reacts videos.
yeah, it's like a fail video. It's like an ultimate life fail, and I somehow managed to text Lila like, "You're gonna have to shut the live stream down." I figure it out, like, find the end button and
Oh
push
my
it,
god.
and, she does, and she's there, and oh my god, like, thank God for good friends, like, she just saw me at my absolute, like, messiest and worst, and what the fuck happened and how, and even I still to this day am like, "What the fuck happened?" Like, it
What was Can you walk us through? Because as I was saying in the beginning of the show, a lot of people are gonna get a phone call. Maybe it's not literally that, but it's gonna be something absolutely you have no, preparation for it. So can you walk us through, like, what was go your brain's going a mile a minute, I'm sure. It's just insane, overwhelming
yeah.
emotion and thought, but can you walk us through, like, what the thoughts that were going through your head in that moment?
'Cause you're just like, "How?" 'Cause I remember his birthday is in September. I was gonna go He was gonna go to Key West for his birthday. I was like, "Oh, dad, should I come out and see you for your birthday?" This is before I knew I was pregnant, and he was like, "No, actually, I will be in Vegas for, 4 weeks or something, or 4 weeks, in October, like, maybe come see me then." And I had fully intended on going out there and seeing him at some point in October in Vegas, well, Henderson, where his condo was, because my sister lives in North Las Vegas with her husband, and so my dad got that condo in Henderson, like, I guess maybe shortly after they moved out there. And because we always as a family, like, kinda loved the Las Vegas area, and, so he would go back and forth, maybe spend 4 weeks a year tops out in Henderson, but most of the time would spend it in, like, Naples in his beautiful, like, retirement area full of 70-year-old women who he had his pick of, and, So I guess he was at at a show or something with his girlfriend and then, like, came back to his house, and I guess whoever it was, like, fucking followed him into his through the garage and, like, had them, just basically and I learned some of these things after talking to his girlfriend who survived, who lived amazingly, and, yeah, like, she told me, like, the guy had them put and, like, when you ask, like, how can you talk about this without breaking down, like, when I first talked about this on a live stream, I did get very messy, and I think I just go back and forth, like, being able to, like, talk about it because 'cause you're focused on just the details and
Sure, okay.
the
Just
continuity
the
of it, and
facts,
then
ma'am, kinda thing.
yeah, and then other times you're like, "I can't" because it's not like he lives in New York still, sometimes it feels like, "Oh, yeah," because we would talk sometimes once a month, like, we weren't like a chat every day kind of
Sure.
father-daughter situation, and sometimes it feels like, "Oh, we just haven't talked in a while," and it's like, "Oh, no, like, he was killed 6 months ago, this is very real, like, it was I got the ashes, it's very real." And, I guess whoever it was, like, followed them in. This is based on, like, what his girlfriend told me, followed them into the garage, had them put their phones and wallets on the hood of the car, had them get down, and it sounds like basically, like, shot my dad in the fucking head execution style, and I think he intended to kill her as well. She had a bullet graze her head, and I think she caught a couple in the arm, and she like, yeah, it's weird because I talked to her and she described to me, like, kind of in a lot of detail, which I didn't wanna hear
Yeah.
actually after the fact, like, but everyone copes differently, like, she described in detail, like, the breath leaving him and, like, what
Oh
his
my god.
actual last moments was like, and I was like I'm thinking, like, "Why the fuck do I do I need to hear this?" Like, but also she was like they were very close. She was apparently, like, in love with him, and it's just like I mean, talk about PTSD, the amount of therapy this woman must need now, and I guess she was able to and then this guy, I guess, took just the cash out of their wallets, didn't take their phones, didn't try to get into his house, and just took off, and then, his girlfriend, Lori, had to just somehow crawl out uh try to get her phone, and then at this point they had like a couple of gay neighbors who came out, and then she called 911, and they were like, "Oh, what's your address?" And she didn't even know it because she just would dad I guess would like drive her there. She had to like check what the address was again, and I'm amazed this woman even like lived, but it's the story to me is so this doesn't seem like a random crime to me. This doesn't seem like gang and I mean, I don't know anything about gangs, but it doesn't seem like people have said, "Oh, it could be gang initiation. It could just be" this is Henderson, Nevada in a gated community. I don't think it's not like you're on the Vegas Strip or something. I just
Yeah.
really didn't have the area pegged as high crime.
And frankly, if he's trying to get into my gang, you don't leave a witness. So what the hell? This guy's a fucking mess.
And, like, I guess on the bright side is, like, he died protecting this woman, but it's just so unbelievable. It really like, when I go over the details, it feels like a TV show, and it feels like and I think I try not to just, like, wallow in sadness because when I just think, "What can I do to be productive?" Like, "How can I help?" I don't know. Can I help the investigate? Can I do anything? Is there
Do you
can I
wanna
talk
do
to
you
people? Like
you wanna mow my lawn in his honor?
I'd love to. If you have any trees that need trimming, I would love to just, like,
Make it for a little
climb up
plaque.
there. Yeah. Oh my god, yeah, I had, a little bit of a brunch with my dad's best friend who did landscaping business, like, landscaping work with him and, like, my uncle and, like, my aunt, and it was, like, really lovely, and I gave each of them, like, a little thing of ashes, and my dad's best friend, Billy, who my baby's middle name is William because it's after my dad's, like, best friend, but also, Frank has an uncle named William as well, so it's 2 for 1 there, but my dad's best friend, Billy, took his ashes and literally, like, hung them up in one of his trees,
I
like,
love that.
in a birdhouse or something. I was like,
That's really
really
sweet.
sweet, because it's just nobody in my family really has had, like, we haven't been, like, everyone's cremated in my family for some reason. Like, my dad's mother was the only person who even had, like, an open casket type of anything,
Oof,
and there was
I don't get that, the open casket, like, I don't
the
why
Italians love their open casket.
I don't
Everyone's
like
gotta
it.
look at the corpse, kiss the corpse, hug the corpse. Everyone yeah,
No.
that I don't know for some, but we're not, we're German and Norwegian, and everyone's just like, "No, let's not. Let's
Yeah.
not." My mother was cremated, like, my grandma and grandpa. So, but it felt good to get everybody together and, like, at least give them the people closest to my dad, like, at least give him ashes. Because with all this shit going on and us having so many questions about how he died, we haven't planned any kind of, like, proper funeral or memorial, anything like that. Because it's like, what am I gonna his longtime Teamster friends are gonna be like, "So what the fuck happened?" And I'm gonna be like, "I don't actually know." So that's what's has sucked too, this whole, like, well, it's felt like I can't really plan anything because there's so many questions still. Now it's been 6 months, and it almost feels shitty that there hasn't been a big thing, but, it feels good that I was, able to, like, see, my uncle, my aunt, dad's best friend, give them ashes. We all kinda, like, talked and had a little bit of, like, a moment because my brother's in North Carolina, my sister's in Vegas, so I'm like it's just crazy with everybody's schedules. Anyway, yeah, so he put his ashes up in a tree, which was sweet, and it's
So
just such a fucked up story, and I talked to I have so many friends that are former NYPD, former detectives, and right when it happened, they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, so much evidence is collected in the first 48 hours. They'll figure it out in no time." And here we are 6 months later, like, what, with still no fucking clue.
folks, Homes.com knows that when it comes to home shopping, it's never just about the house or condo. It's about the home. And what makes a home is more than just the house or property, it's the location and the neighborhood. If you have kids, it's also schools, nearby parks, transportation options. That's why Homes.com goes above and beyond to bring home shoppers the in depth information they need to find the right home. And when I say in depth, I'm talking deep. Each listing features comprehensive information about the neighborhood, complete with a video guide. They also have details about local schools with test scores, state rankings, and student to teacher ratio. They even have an agent directory with the sales history of each agent. So, when it comes to finding a home, not just a house, this is everything you need to know all in one place. Homes.com. We've done your homework. Guys, You're Welcome with Michael Malice is sponsored by Lumen, which is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then, Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. And because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, and so on. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health. It could also track your cycle as well as the onset of menopause and adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts so you can keep up your energy and stave off cravings. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me and use Malice to get $100 off your Lumen. That's LUMEN.me and use Malice at checkout for $100 off. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode and for sending me one because I've been using it and it's really cool. Let's get back to the show. Have they, without getting into details, have they actually been responsive at all in terms of, trying to follow up? Or like, how would you grade them on a scale of A to F, I guess I would say?
Like a D, like it
Oh,
really you would think at this point we'd be like, "All right, we got this suspect and this suspect, and here's what we got," and, um, "Oh, well, there's a problem with the HOA, that's why there's no Ring camera footage." It's like, "What the fuck? This is a gated fucking community, like, how is there no this is 2024, how is there no footage?" Everyone's constantly being surveilled, videotaped, right? So it just seems the whole thing is so surreal and hard to grasp, but I think I try to think like, "Okay, what can I do or look into to be productive instead of just like I don't know, toiling and wallowing in it." But it's fucking insane. Like the last time I talked to him, I told him I was pregnant and he said, "I have plans for April." And that was the last time I'd ever talked to him. And the last time I saw him was when he's like, is at my wedding. He's walking me down the aisle. It's like the peak moment, like 2 of the peak moments of your life. And it's like, and he was in great fucking shape. Easily, he had another good 10 years. I guess the only thing that makes me feel a little better is he never wanted to be somebody who was, like, old in a nursing home or have people, waiting on him. He always wanted to very independent dude, so at least he died, like, in great shape and super independent and, not being wheeled around fed mush, he would always joke, like, do you remember the show Dinosaurs from
Of
was
course,
it the
yeah.
'90s? He'd always be like, "Yeah, if I get to a certain point, just push me off a cliff like they did to the old dinosaurs in that show." Like, they would just fucking push him off. He'd be like, "That's you could do that with me." So
But
it's like
so he so, you're a comedian and I've seen your act. It's very funny. You're not a Pollyanna. Like you do have an edgy sense of humor. Like every comic I know, they can't turn their brain off when it comes to humor. Like that part, like I talked to Roseanne about this. She's like, I can't stop it. Like and it's lucky that she's Roseanne because otherwise she'd be like unemployable. Like who's gonna have it? Like have this bitch in a
she'd be
business
the
meeting.
nastiest woman at the DMV, that's who
Yeah,
she'd be.
but, like, it would be like you're having some kinda corporate meeting and she won't shut up, and all these the jokes are really funny, but they're also really inappropriate. It's just like, "Who is this bitch?" kinda thing. Um, I suspect that your brain, especially as humor is such a great release of pressure and stress, your brain must have been telling jokes, like, really quick.
Oh my god, Michael, like, the day 'cause I'm with Lila Hart, who, we became when I found out this news, and we became friends because she has spina bifida, she's 4'6". She couldn't we bonded over the pandemic because we both are, like, very anti-vax, and even more so, she got kicked out of the Comedy Cellar because she's like, "No, here's my paperwork, here's my doctor's note, I can't get vaxxed because I have fucking spina bifida,"
Hold on,
and
hold on, hold on. I just love the idea that I'm not gonna get vaccinated, but I'm gonna drink White Claw when I'm pregnant. Like, I care about
Oh,
my
yeah,
baby.
that's where I draw the line. I'm very concerned for my health. Yes. Claw is the law. Anyway, so, like, me and Lila bonded, over the pandemic because our shared hatred towards the COVID vaccine, and, she got kind of famously kicked out of the Comedy Store. They wouldn't let her in, even though she's fucking 4'6" and had a doctor's note, and that's how I brought her on, and we started touring together. And I immediately, like, joked to Lila, I was like, "Wow, I my dad got the Johnson& and Johnson, COVID vaccine. I always thought that that was gonna be what killed him." And I'm like, "Turns out it was a different shot completely that killed him." And we both, like, laughed. She's like, "Holy fuck." Like, that's dark.
I had lost touch with a friend during COVID, not over it, but just, people kinda drifted apart a little bit, and I reached out to him recently. I'm like, "We haven't talked in a long time. I don't want you not to be in my life. Is there if there's no beef, I would love to see you next time in New York." He's like, "Yeah, there's no beef. I'm so glad you reached out."
Aw.
And, uh, it turned out his brother in that past year had and I don't know, I can't say it on YouTube, but took
Okay.
matters into his own
He
hands,
did
so to speak.
Canadian healthcare.
Yeah, right, exactly. And
Yeah.
even he had the joke, he goes, he called me a week before, and I didn't realize at the time he was saying goodbye, and it was like Trump, it was a perfect phone call. And I'm like, "That's really funny and really dark."
Whoa. And
Yeah,
people say it all the time. I remember even when both parents were alive. You hear people say it every day. You see tweets every day. You never know when you're going to lose people closest to you. You
right.
hug your friends closely, hug your parents, call your people, tell them you love them. And when both parents are alive, you're like, yeah, but they're both still fucking annoying me. Or my mom, she'd always, anytime I'd visit her, it would never be enough. It would never be, I'd never stay long enough. I'd never see her often enough. And then you see the tweets, oh, hug your parents close. You never know when it's the last time. And then she fucking wastes away, dies of cancer. And I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have been so annoyed at her just wanting to spend more time with me. And
But you're so blessed that you get to have your last conversation with him be one of pure joy, and that also that you Jesse Lee Peterson got through to your thick skull, and he hasn't gone through to mine, that you're like, "All right, I'm gonna," because I don't talk to my dad, that he's like,
wow.
and Jesse tried to yell at me, and in one ear out the other, but that you're like, "You know what? I'm gonna suck it up, and this is the right thing to do." So you have something that a lot of people didn't.
And I really wanted to, because I was in therapy for a few years just when my mom was diagnosed and after she passed, and I thought, "Oh, I have daddy issues," but it turns out I had mom issues too, like, I had
Sure.
stuff from both my parents, and 'cause so there was the therapy part of me really wanted to, like, write him a long letter at one point and sit him down and be like, "Here's how you mistreated me after mom's death, and you shouldn't have done this and that, you should have said this and that," and I was like, "He's a fucking 77-year-old man, he's a German immigrant." I'm not what's easier to just forgive him and have grace for this man, this imperfect man who did the best he could at the time and has a ton of issues of his own from his own dad and growing up, and oh my god, my uncle Tony told me, and this is just such a generational thing, right, like with the boomers, but Uncle Tony wouldn't say, like, "hit," but he would say "disciplined." He'd be like, because we're reminiscing about, like, after dad died and, like, yeah, one time, he's talking about how his dad I was like, "Did your dad spank you guys?" He's like, "Yeah, one time," his my grandfather's name was Max, like, "One time Max was disciplining your father so much that he, like, broke a stick or, like, broke something over his
Oh,
back."
just give him some
Literally
Advil.
literally broke some hit my dad with something till the thing broke. I don't know if it was like a stick or a wand or a I don't know, and I'm like, "Holy fuck," like, just the difference in how the generations talk about that, and,
Sure.
like, my dad spanked me too, he fucking threw a chair at me, he missed, but, like, you never forget that I was 8, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think my kid could ever piss me off to the point where I'm picking something up and
Wait,
throwing it
yeah,
at
can we
him.
talk about that? 'Cause I was just in New Mexico with a couple of friends of mine who I've known since high school, so we were pals for, like, over 30 years now, and we have these inside jokes, and we must be completely insufferable to be around. I'm already insufferable enough myself, so the 3 of us forget it, and one of them, Antoinette, she has 2 little boys, and I was going to first the question I was asking, like my brain went really quickly. I'm like, I wonder if we met now, if we'd be friends. And then I was going to ask her, if you were your son's age, would you have been friends with them? And then I had this memory that I had not, and I remembered all of a sudden, when I don't remember whether I was 10 or 14, it was somewhere in that range. And my mom had told me, if I was your age, I wouldn't be your friend. And right? And now that I'm older than she was, like, at the time, I thought it was fucked up and evil, and now that I'm older than she was when she said that, I'm like, "Yeah, holy shit, that is fucked up and evil." So it's really kind of interesting how when we get to be the age when they were, you could look back and be like, "No, no, 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 I was right as a kid to be like, this is fucked up. Why are you throwing a chair at me?'"
Yeah. It's funny, I think about that too in terms of my family, like my brother, my sister, like my dad, like nobody ever listens to my podcasts or knows about my tour schedule or has any clue about anything I'm doing, never asks about it, they're not even curious. The only person that used to be kind of a fan was my mom,
Sounds
um,
about right.
and she would try to Facebook friend all my friends and stuff like that, like, that's cute, like what moms do. And people go, "Oh, isn't that upsetting to you, Chrissy? Like, your family doesn't care about what you do." And then Frank's family cares so much. Like, they care, it's like, they're very into it. They came with me when I was on Gutfeld, like, they're such fans. And I always think of, like, similar to what you said, I'm like, "No, we're not like friends. Just because you're your family doesn't mean." And I don't know if this is black pilled or not, but I don't have the expectation. At least I dropped it a long time ago that your family is supposed to be a fan of you. Like my
No, no,
uh
I make sure I tell them not to listen to my stuff because I no, I'm serious because I don't want to be getting to the minutia. I don't
Mhm.
like I have a good relationship with my mom now, but, like, I don't if a historian I admire reads my book, that's going to mean a lot. But if my mom's like, "Oh, your book's great," it's just like, it's not, you're not in a position in this regard where your
Yeah.
approval is, something that I'm seeking out. So
You're not a
they are,
historian, mom.
yeah. Well, I mean, but they're
Yeah.
supportive, but I don't expect them. They're not my audience, and your
Right.
family's not your audience. So it's just like I don't
Right.
really. They're not going to be getting these kind of
And
references.
it's the same thing of, like, if I was not related to my brother, would we be friends? Hell no. If I was not
Okay.
related to my sister, present day, would we be friends? No. Like, we
Although
have
let me give
nothing
my
in
mom
common.
credit because when I was in Japan, and I haven't told people this, but I'll tell you in the audience, there was a little denim jacket, black denim jacket that fit me perfectly, right? And on the back in big letters, it says swastika, the word. And I'm like, "I have to buy this," right? And I bought it, of course, and I sent it to my mom, and she's like, what are you, like, endorsing genocide?" I go, "Mom, imagine a T-shirt that just says Statue of Liberty," and she goes, "Okay, I totally get it. She's like, "I
Wait,
totally
where
get
did
it."
you buy this jacket from?
In Tokyo, in Japan, there's only
Oh,
one.
wow.
And the guy's like, "Are you sure you want this? Because the Westerners don't like this." I'm like, "I'm really sure." And I
Oh
gotta
my
wear it on some
god.
show so you can't see it, so I'm wearing it so it's there, but, like, the camera's not on it. I'm very proud of it, to be
It also
fair.
could be great merch for, like, a concentration camp, you know? Like,
But it's just so weird to have the word written out. It's like saying good because it's a
yeah.
good luck symbol in the Far East, right? It's not a symbol of, white supremacy, but to have it's like even a jacket that just said the words "good luck" would be crazy.
Or even, like, yeah, Jewish star
Yeah,
or
right, like Star of David. Yeah,
or yes, yeah, 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 Star of David or, like, cross or
yeah, like, what? Yeah.
that is
Um,
really funny.
I'm I'm so relieved and gladdened that you are also, you know what? I'm sure becoming a mom, a lot of that is, okay, I'm not in a position to be wallowing in powerlessness. I have a goal now. I gotta take care of this little munchkin and make sure he's provided for. So there's a sense look, there's a sense where grieving, you tell yourself you're being self-indulgent, you're not. Someone sent me a clip of yours where you were, like, breaking down and I was gonna have a little I had an imaginary argument with you where you were like, "Why am I still crying?" And I was just gonna be like, "Chrissy, like, we all grieve in different ways. It's never it's ne- you're and here's the thing, I'm not saying this to be mean, but you're never gonna have closure. Like you don't ever have that. And that's what makes things like this so horrific. There's never a like, all right, nice bow on this story. And you'll never have that. And I don't want trying to be mean, but it's just that's what makes it so
No,
horrible.
it's the reality of it. Oh my god, after my mom died, I'd be in a TJ Maxx or something, and I'd be, like, behind a woman with the same haircut and, the same kind of, like, cropped pants and shoes, and I just would, like, lose it, and I would keep moving to different areas of the store, but this fucking woman kept kind of following me. She kept kinda shopping in the areas that I was shopping in, and I was like, "Oh," I'm gonna be like, "Get the fuck away from me, lady." Like, just
Listen,
yeah,
if I was
grief
in
is
TJ Maxx,
wild.
I'd be crying too.
It's like, "Give me that candle, it's $3." It's like, this is everyone I grieve and by discount shopping. I'm a Maxinista. Uh,
I have to ask, like I know the answer, but I still want to hear you say it. It must be really rough for you knowing your son won't get to meet his grandparents. Like, that's gotta be, like, a really punch in the gut, right?
yeah, it's so fucked up. I never ever thought I would lose both parents before 40. You just never think and anyone who's lost a parent kind of get might have the same feeling, like, you see a boomer who's in their 60s, and they're dealing with their mom or dad who's still alive, who's, like, in their 80s and who's a little bit feeble, but I go, "Man, these fucking people got to have their parents till in their 60s. They got to have them, like, have a full adult life with their parents still alive," and you get, like, annoyed/jealous for people whose parents are still alive, and, it is a weird thing, and like, my son was born the same day that OJ Simpson died, so there's a possibility that his consciousness has been re-uploaded into my son. We'll see.
So he's gonna be a great athlete until
He's gonna be great. He's gonna keep him
uh,
away from the white women. Yeah.
um, what so I know this is a tough question to answer because I don't know that you have a good answer, but what advice would you give someone who is gonna get that horrific phone call? Like, what helped you? I'm sure in the first moment, there's nothing that can help you, but just in that first few weeks, there's gotta be things that worked and things that didn't.
Yeah, you just have to literally go like, "What is the next thing I'm gonna do?" Because, like,
Okay.
when I first got the phone call, like, your whole life is just, like, in shambles, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, what's the first thing I'm gonna do? Okay, someone's gonna buy me a plane ticket, and I'm gonna go home." And I cried the whole flight home. Okay, then someone's gonna pick me up. Then we're gonna go home. Then we're gonna go to a diner, and we're gonna you're gonna eat something. Then you're gonna figure out, like, "All right, are we gonna do a service? Do all the family members know? Do all his friends know?" You just go like, "What is the next thing I have to do?"
Okay. So
And
think like live moment to moment and like live in the present.
yeah, it's, just like with any kind of, like, crisis, and also, honestly, having an infant is a big like, yeah, you can't wallow all day, and my god, can you imagine your dad's murdered and I'm pregnant and I can't drink? That's my only coping mechanism is
Yeah.
gone, and I was like, "Wow," because if I wasn't pregnant, oh my god, I would've been drinking after my mom died, I was drinking wine in the bathtub, like, in the bath, like,
Ooh,
leaving wine glasses
fancy. Ooh,
out. Oh,
bougie.
yeah, I was a I was a real Sex
What
and
a
the City type.
classy lady.
And then Frank would get up to shower in the morning, the wine glass would shatter in the tub. He'd be like, "Chrissy, what the fuck?" I would be like out late in the city getting hammered, like come home, forget my key. I slept in the hallway of our apartment after my mom died. Like I was a fucking mess. So I probably would have done the same thing. Like being pregnant saved me from drinking myself into a blackout, probably. And just the moment of getting that news, and what was it, 3 months pregnant, and I'm trying to regulate my own heart rate because I didn't wanna, like, stress myself out
Yeah,
into a
of course.
fucking miscarriage because I was still at
Oh my
that
god. Can
time
you
where
imagine?
you're
Oh my
like where
god.
you're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they say, don't tell people till you're, like, 3 months in, till the baby's, like, locked in, like,
Yeah,
"I'm really
yeah.
doing this." And, like, just that was the most challenging thing, like, okay, I have to regulate myself after hearing this news because I don't wanna, because my heart rate was through the roof,
Of
and
course.
I called the OBGYN, I was like, "It's 150 over something," and they're like, "All right, well, if it gets to be 160, like, you gotta come in." So I had to just be like, it's like such a test, but even now, nothing like you can't wallow because it's like, well, I gotta pull my tit out in 2 hours, so that I gotta feed him. There's something great about having a kid. It's like, well, you just have this big, adorable responsibility in front of you that you kind of just like gotta drop your shit, and it's great to have something else to
Yeah.
focus on, and so is not necessarily like if you don't have kids, like your goals, like your career. After my mom died, I really threw myself more so into stand up and podcasting, and that's when I joined Compound Media. I started doing Aaron and Gino's show and doing characters, and then I pitched Wet Spot and they picked it up. And I got to host Michael Malice show
That's
once. That
true.
was a highlight. Was it Nightshade?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 that was awesome. And so the blessing in my mom's death was the big hole, like the big chunk that was taken out of it, like I filled that with the things I wasn't giving myself, which was like pushing myself harder at stand up and starting to do podcasts and like really my career. And with this, like I don't know. Yeah, yeah, every time somebody dies or leaves you, it's a big chunk is taken
Yeah.
away and you have to consciously think like, okay, what am I going to fill this hole with? And don't just default to like drugs or drinking or something unproductive. Like in a sense, it's like an opportunity. You have to look at it like an opportunity. Um, it's almost and then I don't know. It's hard to like look at, if I'm feeling like, oh, like Buddhist about it. Well, the Buddhist way to look at it is like, things aren't good or bad, they just are.
Yeah, this too shall pass.
Ugh, and then you're like, well, fuck. 'Cause you're like, "Well, there is no version of life where my dad lives to be 90. There is no version. There is no,
Yeah.
like, alternate universe where he gets to live past 77. There's no." And that's sad. You're like, "Fuck, but he's not even gonna get to meet him, and neither will my mom." But I will say, like, we had kind of a tricky birth. Uh, like, the baby Frankie kinda like, I was I would push okay on my first push, and then my second and third pushes, like, would be I just wasn't as good of a pusher as I would have hoped, and he got a little stuck, and then, like, he had trouble, when he was born, like, what they say is, like, transitioning, which is where you go from being a sea creature breathing in
Yeah, yeah.
amniotic fluid to taking in oxygen, and then they, like, they hit you, not hit you, but, like, they
Yeah.
like, you get going, you turn pink, you're a baby, you have the Hollywood baby cry, and he didn't really have that at first, and it was a little bit of a scary moment where he had some fluid on his lungs and had to be briefly taken to the NICU. My god, like, me and Frank have never prayed harder than in those moments, like, right after he was born, and, like, it sounds corny, but, like, I really think my dad was watching over him
Were you
and,
worried that the doctor would get shot?
like we were worried that there was only like, the only men involved in my birth was the anesthesiologist, the guy giving me the epidural, and then the guy from the NICU who ran and all the rest, and Frank was joked later, he's like, "Yeah, I coulda used a few more men in the room. That would've" when you look for a white pilot when you get on a plane, he's like, "I would've been fine if there was more men around," because Frank was holding a leg. He was holding a leg and counting down the pushes with the
Yeah.
doctors. He's like, "I didn't sign up for all that." He's like, "I feel like I worked a shift." He saw too much. So, but
Have you th obviously, this is gonna be way down the road, but you must have thought about someday you're gonna have to tell little Frank about what happened to his grandfather, and that's gonna be a fucking conversation.
yeah, it's because we already kind of, told my stepson. So Frank has a 13-year-old, and, like, we had, like, he handled the had to tell him, but he kind of not all the details, but as much as a 13-year-old could understand, and,
You
like
should Did you tell him to make sure you stay in school or this is gonna be you?
This is what happens if you don't brush your teeth. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's horrible because 'cause you're like, "How do you even"
Yeah, I know.
God, I don't know. In a sense, it's like, well, it's, you 'cause my, like, baby Frankie is gonna grow up, be like, "Well, I've never met these people." So is it easier in a sense to be like, "Well, you can't get sad about someone you've never met." So I don't
Of
know.
course you
Yeah, I
can.
don't
I
know.
never met Peter Fechter, and I was losing it. Of course you can get I'm serious, though. This is his grandfather. Even though you never met him, how is he not gonna get sad? It's
Yeah.
we're all every I promise you that everyone listening to this is sad for you. Like, I'm not in a condescending way, but I think you saw that yourself when you started talking about this. I mean, the internet's a pretty nasty place, but it's also a very kind place, and I think you got a lot of support. And I think I'm sure you were scared. I've had this line ready for a week. I'm sure you were scared to talk about this because internet can be a nasty place and people, will poke fun at anything, be nasty. But at the same time, it's just like your comedy shows. No one was laughing.
Yeah. Right. Exactly the same. Yes, there's mostly support and then some comments like, "Oh, your dad deserved
Oh, yeah, yeah,
it,"
well, yeah.
or
But I'm sure that goes
God,
in one without the other,
I
right?
was
At this point.
hesitant to talk about it for months because I was like, "Well, what if I talk about it and then people call up uh the detective and go, 'You should look into Chrissy. She was at January 6th.'" You just think of every possible way people can fuck with your life, and at this point, like,
That's really man, that's creative.
yeah, well, you think of every because I had people so many people call and try to have my shows canceled. "Oh, Chrissy told a fried chicken joke, and she pissed off Keith Olbermann, and, you gotta she hates Malaysia, she's transphobic." Like, people have tried everything to, like, fuck with my
Are
shows,
are
and
you still raising money for your studio? Can people support you with that?
we hit the goal,
Okay.
and so I concluded the
Oh,
was
that's
it the
wonderful.
GoFundMe or the Give, Send, Go? Yeah, we raised the $5,000, so we're gonna get to work on, like, starting to fix the studio, and, like, this all is gonna be different. There's gonna be 2 sets, like, the one for just me and then one where I can have guests in and have respectable leather couch that they can sit in, and, like, something where I wouldn't be ashamed to have Jordan Peterson sit in is the goal. I'm like, "I need leather, I need mahogany, I need dark." Um, so, yeah, I'm excited to get to work on the new studio, and, yeah, just to, like, answer your question of, like, how to deal with grief is, like, you have to focus on something positive, whether it's, like, working out or taking care of someone or a goal. You
Um,
can't just wallow.
Folks, head on over to malice.locals.com where Chrissy took questions exclusively from supporters. I know virtually all of you have problems dressing yourselves, so I want to talk to you about Rhone, Rhone. Rhone helps you get ready for any occasion with the commuter collection. It offers the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, and polos, and you never have to worry about what to wear when you have the Rhone commuter collection. Head to rhone.com/malice, use promo code malice, you get 20% off your entire order. Their comfortable four-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility, so you're free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to work to your 18 holes of golf. It's time to feel confident without the hassle, because Rhone has wrinkle release technology. So that means wrinkles disappear as you stretch and you wear the products. It's just that easy. And there's even more. With their Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, you'll be smelling fresh and clean all day long. Top of that, Rhone is 100% machine washable. You can ditch the dry cleaner altogether. It's a great product at a reasonable price. Their commuter collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to rhone.com/malice, rhone.com/malice. Use promo code malice. You get 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to rhone.com/malice. Use code malice. It's time to find your corner office comfort. Hey folks, Michael Malice here. You might know me as a Twitter troll, terrible author, insufferable podcaster, but I'm also an underwear model, and the underwear that I model and wear every day is Sheath underwear. If you go to sheathunderwear.com, use promo code malice, you get 20% off and you can be inside my pants. Why I love Sheath is they have special dual pouch technology for both parts of your male anatomy. It sounds weird. The first time I tried them on, I'm like, what is this? And now I literally wear them every day. The great thing about Sheath, it was developed by an Iraq war veteran. And overseas, it gets really, really hot. And Bobby decided, all right, what can I do to make sure I'm not suffering here in this heat? And thanks to his research, you can be comfortable in the comfort of your own home. It's great for cold weather. It's great for hot weather. It keeps you secure and comfortable. And there's something really exciting about going on a job interview, going on a date, doing a podcast, knowing that your underwear has you in its grip, nice and secure and comfortable. Go to sheathunderwear.com, use promo code malice. You get 20% off, and you can get one step closer to looking as much like a hunk as myself. Let's get back to the show. I just got to say, I was thinking a lot about this episode in the week leading up to it, and I am absolutely ecstatic that you are in such good spirits, that you're so coherent, that you're in such as good a place as one could possibly hope. I think it's just absolutely amazing that you're a mom and that your kid kind of saved you. I mean, what a miracle child. And I know you count your blessings in that regard every day. And like you talk about Drew Barrymore, I think about Gwyneth Paltrow and like sliding doors. Like there's another sliding doors reality where Chrissy's not exactly doing so hot, and
Hmm.
she's completely on a downward spiral. So I just think it's
Wow.
absolutely terrific. I'm delighted to have had you on, and I only hope for good things for you and the kid going forward. So I'm just
Aw.
really great that you're in such a good place. Um,
Thank you, Michael.
and I'm also glad that you've seen, as I have in my own experiences, how kind a place the internet could be. People talk so much shit about social media, but that's only one side of the coin.
It really is, and after I first came out with the story, there were so many comments like, "Hey, after watching this, I called my mom or dad who
Yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
spoken to in years," and that's really cool, like that, and I know not everyone can do that, especially if there's abuse or, some really fucked up shit that's
No,
happening.
I had the opposite. After I heard it, I went out and shot my dad. It's what he would have wanted,
Oh my
apparently.
god, surprise, yeah.
Happy birthday. Chrissy, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
Ooh, the whole thing, Michael, I was so delighted, that you agreed to have me on, or who reached out? I reached who
I
knows?
reached out.
You reached out, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Wow," 'cause it's just been so and I've loved watching you over the because I know you after you left Compound, you were, like, writing 2 books at the same time,
yeah.
and I was just like, "You've just been crushing it," and just, like, kind of, like, watching your career has made me happy, and
Can you please say that I've been killing it in those
you have
words?
been killing it. You've been killing it, Michael. I'm so impressed by you constantly, and I was just like, "Oh, he's too big and famous, like, who knows if we'll ever do another thing together, but good for him," and, here we are, and, thank God my dad got shot or else I would have never done another episode with you.
You you are welcome.
Stream your favorite drama movies and TV shows on Pluto TV, all for free. Watch all your favorite crime dramas like CSI and Blue Bloods, or your favorite action dramas like Breaking Bad on Stories by AMC or The Walking Dead universe. Plus, Pluto TV has hundreds of drama movies and TV shows. Download Pluto TV on all your favorite devices for free. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.